Yo, what up, everybody? So, I bought a piece of property in 2005 or 2004. 2004, 2005. I paid $19,000 cash for it. I had just paid off my restaurant and I had extra money and I was blowing it because I was in my 20s and I didn't know any better. So, everyone back then, this was before the 2008 crash, they said, buy land because God isn't making any more land. Blah, 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 blah. So I paid $19,000 cash for this piece of property. And for some reason, every year I got to pay rent for my own property to the government, which literally means you cannot own property in America because if you own it, that means you don't have to pay anyone for it. But if you have to pay somebody for it every year, and you don't pay them, and they can send guys with guns to come take your property from you, then it's not your property. So every year I call them, and I say to them, when do I get to own this property? And they'll say something stupid like, you do own it. I go, and then I'll say something like, if I own it, why do I have to pay you for it? And then they'll say something stupid like, oh, it's just a tax, sir. As if that magically makes it okay. So there's no private property in America, technically, because you can't own something. If you have to pay somebody for it under the penalty of confiscation or tax liens or blah, 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 whatever magic words they come up with it in their religion of violence, then it's not yours. So you're not the owner of your house. You're not the owner of your property. If you have to pay somebody else for it, you're not the owner. So this yearly rent, I call them every year and I bust their nuts because that's what government deserves. They're working for us. And once we all get together and realize that and put an end to all this roadside extortion and racketeering and this you can't own your property unless you pay us bullshit, then it's going to keep happening and it's going to keep escalating because the government never stops. So before I play you the phone call, let me tell you a quick story. I bought this property, $19,000 cash. I've been trying to sell it ever since. It's not really selling, whatever. So I just keep paying the yearly property tax on it or else I get threatened with violence. And so one time I looked up Cadillac Elantes in 1993, which I wanted to buy. So I called up about 12 dealerships and I offered them my property as an even exchange for a Cadillac Elante, which I paid $19,000. Cadillac Elantes are worth about $11,000 to $14,000. So every single one of them said no. And then the last guy I called, he's like, I'm not really interested. So I threw out the old line. I said, God isn't making any more land. And he says, well, God isn't making any more Elantes either. Property.
They're the ones that mandate the fees and everything on the properties. That's all in the Florida statutes.
Oh, so they passed a statute saying that I can't own my property unless I pay them.
Sir, you own your property, you do have to pay real estate tax.
Ma'am, you can't own something and pay someone else for it. That's contradicting.
That way there's a record that you don't agree with it, and then maybe one day we could own our own property again. What a concept.